Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Council Chamber of Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council for this open house discussion on how to be energy smart at home. We had an event here yesterday at the start of the adult weekend, which was the future of sustainable transport and public space. So we had a very sort of energetic discussion, which was great, and we're sort of hoping to have the same again today. And last weekend we had Open House Junior, so we had a number of events around the county, and that was very well attended. For anybody who has a little bit of time after this, there will be tours of County Hall here. One I think it's at 1 o'clock and one at 2 o'clock, so you could possibly join in those. And also there's an event down in the DLR Lexicon where we have one of the artists who is in one of the artist studios in the Baths. She is doing a talk there at 3 o'clock in the Lexicon. So again, if anybody had lunch and then wanted to head on down there, there's a talk there in the project room, which is just off the art gallery. So I suppose back to this morning here. Before we begin, I just want to draw your attention to the emergency exits. So the door behind me to the left and to my right here, and also the door out there behind you. So in the unlikely event of an alarm sounding, please exit in a calm and orderly fashion and follow the instructions of the porters or the other staff on duty. So this discussion here is being filmed for subsequent broadcast. Therefore, by entering the chamber, you're consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and recordings for webcasting. So I'm now going to hand you over to our Cathaoirleach, Councillor Denis O'Callaghan, who will chair this morning's discussion.
Thanks, Andrea. Good morning, everybody. As Andrea said, my name is Councillor Denis O'Callaghan, Cathaoirleach of Laoghaire-Rathdown County Council, and it's great that you have given up of your time to come out to be with us this morning. You're all very quiet. It's much harder conducting 40 councillors here at monthly meetings, so it's somewhat a little different this morning. I suppose before we begin, I hope that the listening to the speakers, you'll have informative engagement. There'll be a question and comment session once the speakers have given their papers. They'll deliver their presentation, and then I'll open it to the floor for questions. Just if you want to, when you're speaking, you might give your name to us. So that we know what company or where you're from. First of our speakers, I will introduce as Carmel O'Connor, the Smart Metering Project Manager at ESB Networks. You're very welcome, Carmel. And our second speaker will be Gobnit Neil, Energy and Climate Awareness Officer at Codima, Dublin's Energy Agency. You're very welcome also. Our third speaker then will be Josephine Maguire, National Coordinator for the Better Energy Programme at the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Also very welcome. And finally then our fourth speaker will be Fergus O'Toole, the Active Customers and Smart Metering Manager at the Commission for the Regulation of Utilities. Very welcome, Fergus. So without further ado, we'll kick off with our first speaker. Carmel, if you're ready to proceed.
Indeed. Hi guys, listen, the slides I have, they're fairly high level. I won't go into too much detail. So hopefully if you have more detailed questions during the Q&A, I'll be able to answer them. So I'll just start straight into them. So the first one is like, who is ESB Network? So again, I'm not sure a lot of people might know ESB big group, but within that ESB group, we have ESB Networks, and we are the people who kind of manage and maintain and own the distribution networks and the transmission networks. And I suppose from my perspective, we're also the people that own the meters. So we have about 2.4 million meters out there, and we would be minding those. So we've been delivering electricity for about 90 years. I suppose we opened it with Ardna Crusher on the generation side, so we're heading up to 100 years in 2027. We've about 180,000 kilometres of network, and by saying that, I'm talking about if you look outside and you're looking at poles, overhead lines, you might, if you're out in the country, you see what looks like a tin can on a pole. That's a transformer, smaller transformer. In the housing estates, you'd see the big green boxes that we'd have transformers in there, and even a lot of people would have little mini pillars outside their front doors. So all of that network is ours, as well as the meters that will be in every home. We spend approximately 800 million euro a year investing in those networks, making sure that we're, connecting new homes, connecting factories, also maintaining the existing networks to make sure that we have a resilient infrastructure that can meet all of the energy needs of customers. And I suppose you'll see in later slides, like that's a big deal for us now with the decarbonising of electricity and connecting heat pumps, electric vehicles. So we're really important for all of that. And we've about 3,500 employees across all of the Republic of Ireland. So you'll have depots, businesses all across. So you'll see the yellow vans, no matter where you go in the country, we're there. And I suppose it's probably important to say we serve all customers irrespective of your supplier. So one of the things that sometimes people think is ESB Networks is a supplier. We're not, and we serve all customers no matter who the supplier is. And there's plenty of suppliers out there, which I'd say Fergus will be talking about later. We also, I think our latest strategy is delivering its networks for net zero. So that's all about helping with the climate action plan, all of those climate energy targets that are out there, the new EU regulations, the things that we want to do to decarbonise our future for ourselves and for our kids and our grandkids and into the future. And we really feel that within ESB Networks, we're going to be working across industry with everybody that we can in order to ensure that. And it means that we're going to be helping customers, businesses, everybody in order to kind of hit those climate action targets. Okay, so how are we doing that? And I suppose the next bit is, where do customers fit in there? So at the moment, and I suppose this is where I'm kind of looking at it, we already have over 1.4 million customers who have a smart meter. And in fact, we're expecting to hit the 1.5 million meters in the next about 4 weeks. Of those, we also have about 18,000 customers who have signed up to a pilot scheme called Is This a Good Time? I'll have a little slide on that later, and that's really around kind of encouraging residential customers as well as businesses into kind of being aware of flexibility and being aware of kind of shifting your usage of electricity to kind of reduce demand and again reduce the need to bring carbon intensive plant onto the network. We've about just over 40 customers, commercial customers that are all supporting us on that. Interestingly, we have over 400,000 customers out there who are looking at solar and heat pump technology. So you'd probably be aware all new builds now have to have some element of kind of being carbon neutral. A lot of new homes you will see with solar panels on their roofs, but a lot of them are also going really energy efficient and going electric heat pump as well. And we're aware of 34,000 customers alone this year that have signed up with electric vehicles and are putting electric vehicle charging points in their homes. And microgeneration is probably one of the big things that we're noticing, particularly in the last 12 months. So I would say on average, we're getting 600 or 700 applications per week into ESB Networks telling us that customers have added solar panels to their networks, to their homes. So of those 70,000 customers that have solar panels, I think we've got at this stage, we've got 55,000 of those have a smart meter, which means that if they're exporting to the network, they can get paid for their excess that they have kind of put into the network. Now, this 1 million solar panels, I didn't even know it until I got until this slide was updated. So those 70,000 customers and presumably some of the kind of the commercial solar panels, there's over 1 million solar panels across the Republic of Ireland, which I think is pretty amazing number. And we're also involved with community energy projects. So we're seeing more of that coming online as well. So we're working with communities who are generating their own electricity. Maybe they're getting their own wind turbine or a lot of solar as well. So what's the smart metering program? So from my perspective, it's a major meter replacement project. So there's 2.4 million meters out there, and we would traditionally have had a cyclical replacement program for meters anyway, because everything gets end of life. And what we did a few years ago, we said, right, well, look, if we're going to be changing meters anyway, we're going to get the best technology that's out there. And smart meters are a way of recording the electricity and bringing that information back online over a 2G network. And it means that we can now give customers much more information. And if you have that information, then you have much more choice. So that's what we're about. We're about giving customers information and choice so that they can have a look and see, you know, if I change the way I use my electricity, can I save money? Can I decarbonize? You have that information at your fingertips. And because of that, you are then helping the environment, because you're encouraging yourself to be more energy efficient. And also the very fact that we can now support renewables, like so that customers who have the solar panels can get paid for the electricity that they're exporting. And of course, the economy benefits because people are using that electricity more efficiently and therefore using less. Like there was studies done back in the initial kind of days, back in 2010, that showed that customers with a smart meter, overall, there was about a 3% reduced in electricity, but over that peak time between 5 and 7 o'clock, that energy usage reduced by 8%. So that all goes to kind of helping the environment, helping customers themselves. And then this is kind of like another one, like why have a smart metering program. And I suppose it's kind of just letting you know in a nutshell what I've just kind of explained. Like it's encouraging energy efficiency. It's facilitating that peak load management, so that peak between 5 and 7 p.m. It's supporting renewables and microgeneration. And it's enhancing competition and improving the customer experience. And you might say, well, how is it enhancing competition? Because customers can have their energy usage to their hand, they can look and they can see what the tariffs are, but also because we can now pull remote readings off of a meter really quickly. If you do decide to change supplier and go to a supplier that has a cheaper deal or a better deal that suits you, it's much more seamless because you're not worried about getting meter readings off of the meter yourself. You're not looking for a van roll and then a network technician to go and take that reading. It's a much more seamless experience for somebody who has a smart meter, and it's improving network services. So that's back to what I was saying earlier, where we now have what we call our poor voltage use case. So it means that where we have smart meters, if they detect an over voltage or an under voltage, we get an alert back. And that alert is gone into a system so that our low voltage network planners can see where there's poor voltage in areas. So like if somebody decides to put maybe 10 electric vehicles in the same cul-de-sac, we would be able to see very quickly if there was a problem with the voltage. And that means we can go out and we can maybe put in an extra transformer, or we can maybe we might have to upgrade the size of a cable. But that information is now, right now, helping the planners, and they're not having to wait for customer complaints. They're actually seeing where the issues are, and over the next few years, it means we're going to be able to fix those problems before they become real issues for customers. And we see that there'll be more of that sort of thing that we can do to actually help customers along the way, as well as just knowing when a customer is seeing multiple outages, like all that sort of information. There's so much data, it's really going to be helpful to us. So like I said, we've almost, I mean, that slide is nearly out of date already, because we're expecting to hit the 1.5 million customers with a smart meter in, I think, 3 weeks now. We're supporting microgeneration, and my next slide is going to talk about the access to the electricity through the ESB Networks online account. And to me, that's one of the most powerful things that we're doing. Like a customer can see what they're doing on a half-hourly basis, and they can make decisions based on that. And another thing, I suppose, no more estimated bills. A lot of you might be aware that one of the things that when you were being billed, there was 6 reads a year. 4 of them were a meter reader goes out. 2 of them were always estimated. So therefore, some customers would have had, you know, an estimated bill at least twice, and you could have a catch-up bill on a regular basis. Or if there was issues, if the meter was behind a locked gate or inside a house and somebody was out working, a meter reader might not have been able to get in. So you could have a lot of estimated bills in a row, and then, you know, somebody gets in and there's a big catch-up bill. Since we went live with kind of pulling in the reads since February 2021, over 9 million bills have gone out that have been accurate, because we've taken 9 million register reads. And so that's without anybody changing anything, doing anything, because it's a like-for-like exchange. That's where we're at. I suppose, actually, do you know what? I flew past. I'm going to go back 2 seconds just to say, right, there's 3 types of meters out there. There's our first phase meter, which is this, I don't know, I can't point, but a Camstrip meter. We also have a Sagicom meter, which is our newest meter. That's what's out there. But since the 25th of February, we now have a day-night meter. So if somebody has a day-night meter, we're now doing a like-for-like exchange from your meter at home to the smart meter. And again, that means that our day-night customers are also eligible now. So we've about 270 to 300,000 of those meters that we're going to be changing out between now and the end of next year. And then back, like I say, for me, one of the big selling points is our ESB Networks customer online account. So if you don't have a smart meter, you can use it to submit your meter readings. But also a lot of people they might have their supplier account number and maybe they don't know their MPRN. So that's a meter point reference number. So every house, wherever you have a meter, you have that meter point reference number, and you can actually find that through the online account. You can also apply and track your new connection. So again, it's giving more information to a customer when they're engaging with ESB Networks. You can view your power outage status. So once you give your MPRN, once you set up that account and link it, you can actually go in and see whether there's a fault or a planned outage in your area. So it works seamlessly with our Power Check app, which a lot of customers are using, which is if the power goes down, you can go in, check and see whether it's a fault outage or a planned outage, but it lets you know. But for me, it's accessing your electricity consumption data. So you go into the ESB Networks account on the website, go into the ESB Networks website, you create your account and you link your MPRN. And then once you link your MPRN, and just again, so you know, if you're creating that account and linking your MPRN, you have to have a mobile number with your supplier. So I think a few of us discovered that, you know, if we hadn't changed supplier in a while, there might have been no mobile number, and you just have to go and update, and our call center can do that. And once you have the mobile number in, it means, because there's multi-factor authentication, means you get the text and you can set it up. But once you have that MPRN linked, and if you have a smart meter, you can go in and you can kind of just see it on the screen. You've got graphs that show your half-hourly usage, so you can see where you're mostly using your electricity. And if you have export, it shows the export. But you also can download a file, and it's called a harmonized downloadable file. It's a .csv file. As far as I'm concerned, it's like a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet of your half-hourly data, and you can go in and then you can use that. And if you want to talk to your supplier about your usage, if you want to go to one of the switching sites with your usage to actually see, where am I spending my money? Is it worth my while looking at a day-night peak tariff? Like Fergus will talk about it, like lots of suppliers have lots of different tariffs now available, and it gives you the power as a customer to look and see, what am I doing? How am I using my electricity? And can I do it differently? Can I do it better? And if I do it differently and better, can I save myself money? Can I reduce the carbon? Can I help do all of that? So for me, it's very, very powerful. And only the customer has access to that data. It's yours, it's fully protected, and only the customer has access to that data. And the last one, this isn't my slide, but I was asked to give it a plug. It's asking customers to sign up to Is This a Good Time program. So it's really like what I was mentioning earlier. I think we've about 18,000 customers signed up at the minute. But what it allows you to do is, when you sign up, first of all, it gives you energy saving tips. It tells you what uses the most electricity, what you can change from. In fairness, I signed up last year and I learned a few things myself. But it also will tell you as a customer, listen, there's a peak event coming. Maybe there's a lot of usage, no wind. It'll say, listen, can you please maybe change a bit of usage between these times? It could be 5 to 7, it could be 4 to 8 o'clock. And if you do that and you can confirm that you did that, there's actually rewards in there as well. So it's a really good thing. And it's really just to get people in the habit of being aware of what's happening with the electricity that we're using. So again, like I say, I was asked to give it a plug. It's, if you create your online account, it's an extra couple of seconds just to fill in the details is a good time, and you'll get those hints, but you'll also have an opportunity maybe to earn some rewards as well. So I think that's me. I know I'm probably after fairly flying through it. So at the end, if you let it digest and you have any specific questions about smart meters, you can come back to us at the end. And I think I'm handing over now to Gobnet.
Thank you, Carmel. And I'll just echo and Cathaoirleach's welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming out on this Saturday morning and giving us your time. Hopefully, we'll give you some information that's useful and helpful. So my name is Gobnet Ní and I'm the Energy and Climate Awareness Officer with Codema. We are Dublin's energy agency. And hello. Okay, sure. Will I stand a little bit closer? Is that a little bit better? Okay, okay. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. So we are Dublin's energy agency and we support the 4 local authorities with the aim of accelerating Dublin's transition to a low carbon society. One of the ways that we do that is through the Think Energy programme, and a large part of that is the Home Energy Saving Kit, which some of you may have seen already, but if you haven't, I'll give it a little introduction. But before I get there, really I wanted to talk initially about why people save energy and why is it a lot easier to absorb and to take on board than what you should be doing. When we can kind of align what we want to achieve with how to do it, it's a lot easier to make changes that will get you there, find the information that you need that suits you, and see how it will help you achieve whatever your goal is. Now, primarily, and especially given the cost of living and the changes in energy costs over the last few years, saving money is a big motivating factor for all of us when we look at the energy use in our homes. Second to that, really, is that our homes are where we feel warmth and comfort, and we want to make sure that it's as cozy and livable a space as possible. In addition to that, then there's health and well-being. Now, we all kind of instinctively know that cold and damp isn't a healthy place to be. And changing the way that you use energy within your house can really improve how healthy and comfortable your house feels. And finally, the other main reason is to fight climate change. Now, within Ireland, our energy system has a lot of decarbonising still yet to be achieved. And with every passing day, we're lowering the amount of greenhouse gases that are produced in delivering energy. But until such time that we're fully decarbonised, then fighting climate change is a really big aspect of saving energy at home. So, to a greater or lesser degree, depending on your circumstances, the time of year, the type of house that you live in, these 4 factors will kind of vary in terms of your priorities. You might find that it's easier to save money on energy during summertime, for example, but it gets to be more of an issue coming into winter and that you're anticipating higher bills, particularly for heating. But whichever way that those 4 come together, there are ways that we can take control of how energy is used. Now, when we do think of saving energy, often we can kind of think of the polar ends of it. So we're talking about like either turning off lights or getting a deep retrofit to your home. But there's actually a really, really big swathe of opportunity in between those two. And in engineering terms, it's largely called behavior change, which I've never really liked because there's an implication that you weren't behaving yourself beforehand, which of course you were. So I much prefer to talk about it as energy saving tips, life hacks, some people like to call them, but just ways of managing what you've already got to make it work a little bit more for you, to make sure that what you're paying for is actually directly benefiting you and not escaping, and that your bills hopefully will come down accordingly. So the Home Energy Saving Kit will help you check where your energy is going, find out what it's costing you, and then see how you can make savings. So it's a collection of tools that are kind of similar to some of the ones that maybe say a BER certifier might use. And you can use them yourself and kind of take notes of the bits that you're interested in. So say if you're living in a house and you suspect there might be drafts, it makes it really easy to find those and to gauge how big they are, where exactly they are, and how to seal them up. If you have a family, maybe with a busy household with lots of people using fridges, multiple fridges in some cases, then a simple item like a fridge freezer thermometer can really help get a clear picture of where energy is going. So inside the kit, you'll find a thermal leak detector. This is usually everyone's favorite. It's essentially it's a thermometer that shines a colored light at a surface. When it first reads it, it'll shine a green light, and then as you move it around looking for drafts, say for example under a windowsill or around where a sink outlet is, then it'll change color to blue, and then you can see if it's a small difference in temperature or a large difference in temperature, and that'll give you a really quick insight into where drafts are coming from without having to, climb up on chairs and crawl under things. It's a really useful one for reaching kind of hard to reach spaces. Then is the fridge freezer thermometer. The fridge is really one of the few things that you never turn off. So it makes a lot of sense to check that it's working enough to keep your food cool and healthy, but not too much so that it's overcooling and you're overspending. The next is the plug-in energy monitor. Anything with a plug in your house, be it your kettle or your TV or Wi-Fi system or vacuum cleaner, anything like that can be measured directly. And you can actually see, looking at the screen, how much energy is being used. It's really useful as well for checking things that are on for a long time. So say games consoles, TV tuners, set-top boxes, all those kinds of items. Then the temperature and humidity meter. This one is a really good one because we know ourselves when you think of cold and damp or warm and dry, it's that combination of temperature and humidity that kind of makes a space livable. And seeing where you are in your own home and different parts of your home as well can give you a really good insight into what improvements can be made. And then finally, very low tech analog piece of kit, but really powerful, a radiator key. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. So it's good to know in terms of an average Irish home where energy is being used. And you might be surprised, or maybe not, to know that almost 2/3, so over 60%, goes on heating. The next step down would be hot water. Beyond that is lighting and appliances. And that's an interesting one because 20, 30 years ago when we all had incandescents, that section to do with lighting took up a huge section of the pie, but we've done a huge amount of work on getting used to energy saving light bulbs, for example, and that's reflected in today's usage. And then finally, 2% is cooking. So if you look at that pie chart, I find that really interesting because we've all got limited time and resources. And if you were to put an hour or two or a certain budget or no budget at all into trying to improve the energy performance in your house, then it really makes sense to focus on the big ones. So it's an awful lot more worthwhile sealing in your heat, making sure that your heating is set correctly, than it would be, say, for example, to overhaul entirely the way that you cook your food. It's still worthwhile, but the opportunities to drive down your usage and your cost and make your home more livable is a lot more heavily tipped towards heating and hot water. So I'll spend a little bit of time looking at those. So initially, the obvious thing is to look at what temperature your heating is set to. As temperatures change naturally throughout the year, we may need to go and have a look at that thermostat and see where it's set. So our recommendation for rooms that are occupied, so rooms you spend time in, your kitchen, your living room, during the day, especially, we would say 18 to 20 degrees is plenty. In other spaces that maybe you move through or you're only in for short periods of time, so your corridors, your hallway, your hall stairs landing, and bedrooms even, and 15 to 18 degrees is just fine. Now, radiator key, it works by letting air out of your rads. Now, I will start by saying you have to do this when the heating is off. It's a really, really important safety measure. Often we kind of think, well, the air's not going to come out unless the pump is on, but actually it'll come out just due to the water pressure itself. So once your whole heating system is fully cooled down and there's no hot water left in the rads, then that's the time to let air out. The reason that it works really is radiators are one of those funny things that are kind of misnamed. Although they do radiate heat, their main job is convection. So what they do is they transfer their heat to the air and the air circulates around the room. So because that's the way that they work, they suck in cool air at the bottom. That air passes over hot fins, hot metal fins at the back of the rad, and then that warm air comes up out of the top and then circulates around the room. So that's things why certain habits we might have, like decorating with long curtains. You can see straight away that, in the evening time when that curtain is drawn, most of the air circulation is going to be trapped behind that. So things like just checking the window coverings that you have, that can be really helpful. Also, and I know this is a painful one for some people who've maybe invested in radiator covers, but if you keep them on in the summertime when you're not using your rads, and then in wintertime, if you can bear with maybe taking them down for a few months, or failing that, maybe taking the top off, you will get an awful lot more of your money's worth out of each and every single rad in your house. And then good old-fashioned Irish mammy advice. I do this one myself at home. Please close the doors, because as air circulates around, if it circulates around in one room, then it stays in that room and it doesn't kind of get lost wandering around the house. So that's a really simple but very effective habit. The thermal leak detector, as I said as well, is really good for finding where drafts are coming in. These are available in similar kits all around the world, and often they'll use them in summer and winter to find hot air coming in. Luckily for us, that's not a big problem. We don't spend a huge amount of money on cooling our homes. But the principle stays the same. You're looking for changes in temperature. And in Ireland in particular, really what you're talking about is cold air coming in under windowsills, around window frames, around your external doors, but also funny little places that you mightn't expect that are hard to get to. So under your kitchen cabinets, that can be one. Where your water outlets are coming in, even where your rad pipes go down into the floor, if you've got a suspended floor, that can get let in quite a lot. And you might think from time to time, like a little draft, what difference does it make? But each opening around your house, when you add up the surface area of each of those openings, it can be the same as actually having a full window open. So they're really worth sealing up and finding. Sealing them up is, again, quite low tech. You can get these self-adhesive strips in most hardware shops and in supermarkets as well. But also other things like curtains. This is something that we don't really give enough credit to, I feel. The heat inside your house doesn't really care if the insulation is a house wrap or triple glazed windows, or if it's a thermal lined curtain, and multiple curtains as well. So, that kind of lovely, luxurious feeling you get sometimes if you're in a hotel, or if you're in a really well decorated area. Those drapes and blinds and curtains are actually doing a lot in terms of insulation as well. And upgrading those, if you have existing curtains, you can get thermal lined inserts from places like Hickey's and just hang them on your existing curtains over winter, and they really do make a big difference. Next area to look at would be hot water. So I won't mention the unpleasantness of the last few years, but we all got very, very good at washing our hands. And one of the ways to save water and save energy there is just to make sure that the hot water isn't running while you're soaping up your hands. And if you think of the amount of times you and everyone in your household washes their hands over a year, that's a lot of hot water that goes down the drain that could be saved. And if it's hot, then you've paid for it to be heated within your heating system, often with your central heating as well. So just keeping an eye on how that is used is really worthwhile. Sealing in the heat once it's been generated. A lot of immersion tanks will have lacking jackets. Doubling up on those sometimes is a great idea, but also you can use the thermal leak detector in this case to maybe find any hot pipes, because the further the water has to travel uninsulated between the tank and the outlet, so your shower or your hot taps, the more chance it has to lose heat, and you're losing out on what you've paid for already. The temperature and humidity meter, this is my favorite actually. It's kind of a really easy way of showing something that I really wasn't aware of a few years ago. And it's the role of humidity in terms of not just comfort and health, because like I said before, damp is never a good feeling, but also in terms of energy use. So if you have your home set up comfortably, most likely you'll be living somewhere between 40 and 60% relative humidity. So below 40%, you kind of have that, I call it kind of the first day of holidays feeling. You might wake up with a dry mouth and your skin feels a bit crackly and uncomfortable. And above 60, then that's when you start to feel that kind of stickiness, be it either cold or warm. Now, above 60 as well, that's when the conditions exist for things like mold and condensation to start to happen. So if you have any respiratory concerns, I have asthma, so I keep a really close eye on this to make sure that that condensation isn't an issue. Now, you might think that it's something that only happens in cold houses, and actually it's not. I'm in the very lucky position that in the last few years I was able to insulate on the inside of my house, and we invested as much as we could in making it all livable and warm and efficient. But I started to see black mold start to gather on my windowsills. That's my bedroom window there. And what I found out was that actually the amount of moisture that was in my house wasn't being ventilated enough. So clatter of teenagers, a lot of showers, a lot of cooking, a lot of cups of tea, all those kinds of things pump more moisture into the air, and I wasn't extracting it fast enough. So again, a simple fix, like when I'm cooking, I try and make sure that the lids are on, that the extractor is on. I check all my vents to make sure they haven't been blocked in any way, make sure those are working properly. And if you want to invest, then a dehumidifier is a really good one. Obviously, it'll keep an eye on the moisture levels in the air, but also can do really good jobs for you, like dry your laundry faster if you're drying it indoors, and just keep your home dry and healthy. Now, plug-in energy monitor as well is really handy to use, and I wouldn't suggest going through every device in your house, but if you were to check any, I'd go for ones that heat up either on purpose, like a kettle or a sandwich toaster, or as part of what they're doing, like a washing machine or a tumble dryer. Those are all worth checking. And also ones that heat up and it's got nothing to do with what they're supposed to be at. So things that are they're not sold on the basis of being energy efficient. Often you get given them for free, for example. So Wi-Fi modems, TV tuners, they heat up an awful lot, which is an indication that they are not running efficiently and costing you electricity that you're not getting the benefit of. Standby mode, we've probably all heard of this. I tend to associate it with things like TVs, for example. But TVs have gotten an awful lot more efficient, whereas things like games consoles, for example, again, we don't buy them on the basis of efficiency. We buy them on the basis of processing power. We want them to be gobbling electricity. So on standby mode alone, some of these have been shown to use as much as 60 times the amount of electricity that a television would on standby as well. Fridge freezer thermometer, again, like I was saying earlier, you never get to turn this off. So it makes sense to check that it's not overcooling or not cooling enough. And again, that's something that can change over the course of the year. So now that our temperatures have dipped, maybe our summer setting for the fridge isn't needed anymore. You might get to check and turn that down a little bit and save some energy. And then just in terms of the way that we use our fridge, we like to recommend the peek and grab. So rather than standing with the fridge door open for a long time, which lets out all that cool air, which has done the job for you, to kind of arrange it so that there's a lot of circulation around the food, that works very well. And also just to know what you're going into the fridge for in advance and just keeping that open door time to a minimum. So from an environmental point of view, sometimes we can think, like, what difference would it make? I'm only one household. But our home usage makes up for such a significant proportion of our greenhouse gases that if every household in the country were to cut it by 10%, and that's doable, doing just the things that I've described already, that'd be the equivalent to taking 385,000 cars off the road in terms of greenhouse gas reduction. So if you are interested in it from an environmental point of view, it's really worthwhile. So if I can leave you with any message at all, it's whether you own, rent or share, no matter what your circumstances or budget is, you can make a difference to your bills and to your environmental impact with these tips. And what I have at the end is, if anyone's interested, I have guides to 100 ways that you can save energy at home. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Governor. Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on the clock, so we'll go straight into our third presentation, and Josephine from Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. Josephine.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming, especially on a sunny day when there's lots of more interesting things happening later on this evening. I'm sure everybody's getting ready to watch the rugby. So I'm Josephine from SEAI, and what I'm going to talk about is kind of, I suppose, complementary to what Carmel and Gobnet talked about, but I'm going to talk about more focusing on, okay, my house is cold, it's drafty, I need to do something with it, as opposed to how might I save a bit of energy here or there or watch my bill. So this is about actually action if you can do it. So it's just to give you a little bit of a flavour of what's possible, what sorts of grants are available, what sort of help is available. So SEAI works with companies, they work with the public sector, we work with the public. We've got lots of resources online. We have a helpline if people want to ring up, and we have lots of program people who are always willing to talk to you as well. And we do quite a lot of outreach to communities as well. So I won't talk too much about this, but just to say we're all on a train here. Government realise that we need to tackle climate change, and part of that is looking at homes. 25% of energy use in Ireland is in homes, so we're a quarter of the energy used nationally. So government want to upgrade homes. They're putting money into helping people upgrade their homes. For people in certain sections of society who couldn't afford it themselves, government will actually upgrade the home for them. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So like I said, a quarter of all energy consumption is in homes, and as Governor talked about, probably 80% of that energy use in your home is either to heat your house or to heat your water. So when you are thinking about trying to tackle things, those are the things you should probably think about tackling. So thinking about tackling how you heat your home, well, where do you lose heat? So you lose heat through your roof and your walls primarily. Those are the two you should look at if you're thinking about it. Then look at draft stripping, like draft stripping your doors, your windows, all of that. That's another big area where you can lose lots and lots of energy and heat. After that, it's doors and windows. People often think, oh, look, if I change my windows and put in a new door, I'm going to have saved energy. You haven't really. The big areas where you lose energy are your walls and your roof. They're the ones to tackle. Your windows are more how your house looks than actually losing heat, especially if they're already double glazed, the older double glazed. If they're single glazed and half fallen out, well, then you're losing lots more through air infiltration as well. The final one then is floors, but only if it's suitable. Many of us, it's not suitable. You'd have to take up suspended floors. It would cost a lot of money. It would be very disruptive. In that case, you're thinking about carpets, you're thinking about rugs, you're thinking about maybe filling in cracks in floors, stuff like that. Why would we do it? Again, Government has talked about this very much. Most people, this is us telling you what you tell us. Most people do it for comfort and cost savings. They're the main reasons why people do it. After that, the environment is a really important one for people. And then the final one is actually improving the value of your property. So we all know if you upgrade the energy rating of your home, there is an increase to the value of your property should you ever decide to sell it, or indeed for something that's rented either. So the 3 steps to thinking about upgrading your home are assess, insulate, and then renewables. And what we mean by that is assess is figure out what you need to do. How do you get started? I would suggest there is talk to other people. That's the first thing. Talk to people who've got it done already. Talk to, if you know, some local contractors. Then when you want a little bit more information, go and get what we call a BER assessment. That's an energy rating of your home. And while it gives you the energy rating of your home, there is an advisory report that comes with it. And that will tell you what are the best things to do in your home and in what order, and generally give you a broad outline of whether they're cheaper to do or more expensive to do. You can also get a home energy assessment, and SEAI gives a grant towards the cost of that, probably about 40% of the cost, perhaps 50% depending. And that's where somebody will come in and sit with you and talk to you quite a lot about what you want to do with your home, do a deeper assessment of your home, do a design, say if you wanted to put in a heat pump and take out your fossil fuel heating system, and they will give you quotes and estimates and tell you where you can get contractors to do it. You can, and I'll talk in a little while about what kind of contractors you might use depending on what sort of an upgrade you're going to get in your home. Once you've assessed the home, the first thing you need to do is insulate. If you're looking to do the best value for money, that's again, I can't stress it enough, it's your walls and roof every time and a bit of draft strip. And they're the things to concentrate on. People love, as Carmel said, solar panels, and they're a great thing. But if you've got a spare 5 or 10 grand, insulate your attic, do something with your walls. You'll save an awful lot more money and be an awful lot more comfortable than putting on the solar panels. That's not to say if you can afford it that you shouldn't do it. It's absolutely a lovely thing to do. But after you've made your house warm and comfortable, think about your renewables then. Think about maybe, should I change my heating system to a heat pump? Should I put solar panels on my roof? Should I think about an electric vehicle? So if we just compare the home energy upgrades that are available through SEAI, on the left-hand side there, I'm talking about the free upgrades. And this is for people who are on certain social welfare allowances. And in that case, SEAI will arrange an assessor. You ring them or you go through maybe your local social welfare office and you get on a list with SEAI. We arrange to come out and visit you. We'll get somebody to do an assessment of your home, decide what needs to be done, let you know what those things are, and then work with you to send out contractors to do that upgrade. The middle one there is what we call a one-stop shop service. So this is for homeowners who aren't going to get the free energy upgrade and are looking at their home and wanting to do a big renovation with their home. So you're maybe doing an extension, you're maybe upgrading your home in other ways, changing things out, changing things around. At that point, it's a good idea to think about the energy efficiency, and that's when you might do those deeper upgrades. At that point, if you're going to spend quite a lot of money, we would suggest you should think about going with a professional who will project manage that for you. Smaller ones you can often do yourself and project manage and just have a contractor on site that you talk to. But when you're getting that big upgrade where, it's costing maybe 50,000 and maybe SEAI are giving you grants of 20,000, but you're still spending 30,000 of your own money. Like any big job on your home, it's worth having a professional involved, and those one-stop shop services will do that for you. They'll deal with the contractors. They'll make sure there's quality. They'll make sure it all happens in the right order, in the right way. They'll deal with SEAI and get the grants for you and only charge you the cost net of grant. So you'll only pay the net cost at any time. They'll organise the assessor to come out afterwards and do your BER assessment. So all of those things. On the right-hand side is the one for the individual energy upgrades. And that doesn't mean you're just doing one thing, but you might be doing just a couple of smaller things. So in that case, you might be just deciding, oh, look, I want to get my attic insulated and I'd like some heating controls on my heating system. And those things you can go into a website that SEAI has, apply for the grants yourself. You can pick from our list of registered contractors. Obviously, you have to ring those contractors yourself and organise for them to come out. But you do all of that yourself. You make the grant application. The contractor comes, does the upgrade for you, fills out the forms that SEAI will have sent you to ensure that you can claim your grant. And when the work is done, you get a BR contractor to say the work was upgraded and what your rating is now. You send all those into SEAI and the money will generally be in your account in a number of weeks. Sometimes there's inspections and that will mean that they will come and inspect and they'll only pay you after the inspection. But for 90% of people, there's no inspections and you just move along and get paid. So the full energy upgrade, just to delve into that a little bit more so you're aware of it, that's for people on certain social welfare allowances. So I've listed there what they are. The the big traditional one was people on fuel allowance, and you'll all know that your winter fuel allowance that you get paid. But also the government has widened out the definition and people who are eligible now. So there's lots of newer ones that people should look at and think about. So you've got the one parent family, you've got a family income supplement, you've got care allowance, you've got job seekers allowance, where you have children that are younger and you're on it for more than 6 months. And then the newer ones are the carers allowance, where you're living with a person and caring for them, or disability allowance for more than 6 months with children that are younger. So all of those allow you to apply to SEAI to have your home assessed and upgraded. Now, what I would say for people, and I'm sure there'll be one or two people here who know this, because government have widened that eligibility, we have a huge amount of interest. So we have quite a long waiting list. We are getting through people. We have new contractors on our lists, and we're trying to get through people quickly. But people can be waiting for up to 2 years from when they contact us to have the job completed. We do try and prioritize people with colder, worse insulated houses, and we also try and prioritize people who are in, you can understand some people are more vulnerable than others, so we do try and prioritize those as well. And the priority is for people with homes with a BER, an energy rating of D or less. The one-stop shop service that I talked about, that's there. It's for homeowners and smaller landlords, so landlords that have, a couple of properties that they're renting out, as opposed to a big landlord who's a commercial operation. Like I say, it's a fully managed solution, offers a wide range of grants, and they will take care of the full upgrade for you. I won't talk through this, but those are the grants that are available. You can see lots of detail there. It's for your attic, it's for your walls, it's for your floors, it's for your windows and doors if you're getting a large upgrade that you're going to get to an energy rating of B2. The grants are generally probably in the 40 to 50% space of the cost. So you would be looking to come up with probably up to 60% of the cost yourself. On the individual energy upgrades, like I've said, this is generally where you've done that yourself and you've decided you'll project manage it. Sometimes some of those one-stop shops will be interested in doing the smaller upgrades and will help you out with that. But there's no doubt there's a cost to that. People don't do that for nothing. There's a project management cost that's involved in this. And that's why you'll see in our grants that I talked about earlier, there is a project management grant there to help you pay those one-stop shops to project manage your upgrade. Those are the grants for the individual upgrades. You can see there's not as many grants there. So for instance, there is no grant for windows and doors on the individual upgrade. Why is that? Well, as I said, that doesn't generally save as much energy or as much CO2 for people. It's great and it looks lovely in your house, but mainly it's aesthetic rather than energy efficiency. And if we had individual grants, I can tell you with all certainty, every penny we had would go out on windows and doors rather than attics and walls and all the things that it should go out towards. Just in case there's anyone in the room, there are some, again, those small landlords, there are some tax allowances if you upgrade the property. Why is that? Because we don't want tenants to be cold in their house. We are trying to encourage landlords to upgrade the homes that they've rented out so that tenants are warm and comfortable and have lower bills in their home. You'll see that out there is a reduce your use campaign going on nationally by government. This is, I just put it in there because I thought it was really useful to look at. It's done from last year, so the costs might be slightly out of date, but we all know our energy costs haven't gone down very much since last year. And if you look at the bubbles there, the big bubbles are where it costs a lot of money. And you can see at the bottom there, the cost generally of your oil or gas central heating to have it on for 5 hours a day is over €11. You work that out in a month, in 2 months, that's 600 quid in 2 months. If you had your heating on for 8 hours, that's 1,000 a month. So it does, people think, oh, this doesn't pay me, but it does pay you over time to reduce the energy use in your home, especially now when things are so expensive. Those are just the top 5 appliances where you use the most energy in your home. The home heating, the water heating are obviously the big ones. After that, electric showers, tumble dryers, and ovens. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks
I'll
very
be
much.
around for questions.
Thanks very much, Josephine. And we'll move swiftly to our final speaker for today, Fergus.
Thanks, Phil. Morning, everyone. So my name is Fergus O'Toole. I work for the Commission for Regulation of Utilities. Just going to go through a little bit about what we do and hopefully give you some tips on how to save some money at home. So the CRU, who are we? We're Ireland's independent energy and water regulator. So that means we have responsibility over a lot of the energy system for electricity and gas, as well as looking after Uisce Éireann. We have a key role in protecting energy and water customers, and also a role in relation to kind of energy safety across a number of areas. Just to make you aware in terms of customer protection. So one of the things we do is we set the minimum levels of standards that every energy supplier has to kind of adhere to when they're engaging with consumers. And the way we do that is through what we call our supplier handbook that requires suppliers to produce codes of practice around billing and disconnections, advertising, marketing, pay-as-you-go metering, how to deal with vulnerable customers, and complaint handling. We also have a role in providing information to customers about their rights and about engagement with the energy system. So our website has a lot of information on there, much more than I'm going to talk about today. So I encourage anyone to have a look at that if you ever want to find anything about dealing with your electricity or gas supplier. We also offer free independent complaint resolution service. So if you got a complaint with your energy supplier or network operator and you're not happy with the outcome of that, you can bring it to us. We'll investigate and adjudicate on that and award compensation where appropriate. Oh, this is okay. Sorry, just to mention, we did do introduce additional customer protection measures last winter, just as a result of the energy crisis. And if you want to find out more about your consumer rights, any information and details, as I said, it's all up there on our website. Okay. So understanding your energy bill. Research conducted by the department last year kind of shows, and this year shows, that energy bills are now the kind of #1 concern for households in the country. And the key way to kind of understand a bit about that, about how you consume, how much you're paying, is your energy bill. Now, I'm sure everybody here is engaged enough to be looking at it, but our research shows that less than half of customers actually open their bill and look in any detail of what's on there. But we've put requirements in place for suppliers to have key information about your energy use. So they all have to put that on there. The image there is just taken from our website, and it kind of goes through the details of everything you need that's on your bill. So they are worth kind of looking at and getting familiar with, just so you can better understand your consumption and how much you're paying and what's contributing to those payments. But if you have a look, and if there's something you don't know, or you have a question about, then contact your supplier, ask them. That's what they're there for. Or if you prefer, you can contact us, and we'd always be happy to help. And I have contact details for our customer care team on the last slide. Okay. So one of the key developments in the energy sector, as Carmel's talked about, is the rollout of smart meters. So most people here, there's almost 1.5 million installed now. So most people here will have one installed already. And what I would just mention is nothing changes when you get your smart meter installed. So your contract with your supplier doesn't change, your tariffs don't change. You have to kind of activate it. And you can do that by talking to your supplier. But what the smart meter is it's kind of a tool and enables customers to do a number of things. So Carmel's kind of talked about all the access to better consumption data that you can get. You can also avail of smart services with your supplier. And these things, they kind of help lower your carbon, can help lower your carbon footprint. I won't go over, I think Carmel talked a lot about how smart meters enable you to do that, so I won't repeat that. But they also introduce time of use tariffs. And if they're used in the right way, they can save you money and also help on that reduction of your carbon footprint. So what are time of use tariffs? Well, I think the first thing to do is to kind of understand what's out there and what smart meters do. So traditionally, we've had two real kind of types of tariffs in the market, your flat rate or your 24-hour tariff. So that's what most people are on. It's just, you pay the same rate no matter what time of day you use. About 10 or 15% of customers have day-night tariffs. So that's where it's cheaper at night time. And then there is a cohort of customers who use pay-as-you-go or prepay meters, and they can be on either one of those two as well. But what smart meters enable is time use tariffs. So they are essentially what a time use tariff is. It has different rates for different times of the day. So the electricity system is much more expensive at peak than it is in the middle of the night, but a flat rate kind of levels that out across the day. What we've done is we've required every supplier to have at least one time use tariff, and it's called the standard smart tariff. So you may be familiar with that. That's kind of has a day, night, and peak rate charge. And so it enables customers to kind of, if they can move some of their consumption away from peak times, that they can get the benefit of the cost savings of doing that. There are other things out there like a night boost tariff. So the number of electric vehicle owners is obviously growing, and there are tariffs that give particularly cheap rates for a few hours in the middle of the night, and that's to encourage vehicle owners to charge at that time. There are other innovations coming into the market, like some suppliers are now offering a free weekend day, so you might get free electricity on a Saturday or Sunday from 9 to 5, I think it is. So if you can move a lot of your consumption to that, that might be something that works for you. And in the future, we expect further innovation around what kind of might be out there. So depending on the way when you consume electricity, you'll be able to kind of benefit from time use tariffs. I do want to mention smart services. So if you're unsure about time use tariffs, one thing you can do is you can engage with your supplier and enable them to access your smart metering data. And what they will do with that is they'll analyze that and feed you back information and insights on when and how you consume. Most of them will allow you to retain your existing tariff structure. So that's something I do now. I've switched to a smart service option where my supplier can get my data, but I'm still on a flat rate tariff, and I can access that data online. They can show me when I use electricity. They give me insights on whether I'm using it on heating or appliances or whatever it is. So it allows me to be better informed. And then if I want to make the jump to time use, I can do that kind of from a more knowledgeable position. I would just mention that in the future, for any pay-as-you-go customers, that will be a feature of smart meters in about 12 or 18 months. So comparing tariffs and switching. So look, what I would say is switching is a great way to save money. It's easy to do. I think switching your energy suppliers is I know there's pressure to switch your insurance and other utilities, your broadband, and sometimes that can be complicated and take a lot of time. Actually, switching energy is really easy to do. It's also can save you a lot of money. So we produced research last year that showed that if customers had switched in each of the previous 4 years, they would have saved up to €1,600 over that time, and that's for electricity alone, and up to another, I think, over 1,200 for gas as well. So there really are significant savings to be made there, but lots of people don't switch, and what that means is they end up on the kind of higher rates with their supplier. So if you are thinking about switching and you're thinking about a time use tariff, what you need to know is just consider, how do you use your energy at home, and can you move some of that to another time? So if we're all on a flat rate tariff, maybe we put on the washing machine and the dishwasher at peak times, but we don't need to. And if we could move some of that to a different time, we might be able to avail of some of the savings that are there. So that's that. We need to consider how we consume now, but also think about what you might be able to shift to avail of different tariffs. Obviously, things you need to consider is, are you going to get solar panels or electric vehicles, and that might influence your decision. The unit rate and the standing charges you pay. So particularly if you're a low use customer, if you don't use that much electricity, just keep an eye on the standing charge, because it is important. And especially if you don't use a huge amount, that can be a bigger portion of the bill. And the different suppliers, there can be a significant difference in the rates they charge. And then just look, there are prepay solutions available and out there, and that might be something that work for you. But if you're considering that, I definitely advise you to look at the standing charges element of that, because it can be much higher for those prepay options. So you can get a lot of that information about when you use your ESB Networks online account that Carmel has talked about. The CRU, we also produce monthly reports on what the best tariffs out there are. So that can be a resource online on our website. If you are going to switch, what I'd say is you can gather the information you need from your bill. So your meter point registration number, or MPRN, which you need to switch. You can have a look at the tariff you're on and kind of get an idea of how much you use. You also need to just be conscious of if you're still in contract. So if you leave your electricity supplier and you're still in contract, you can incur an early termination fee. So just check that. If you're not sure, you can always give your supplier a call and check. But when you do want to switch, you can contact your supplier, because they're very happy to let you roll on to the standard rates, and they can be higher rates, but they'll want to keep you. So if you contact them, even if you don't want to go through the switching process, at least once a year, give your supplier a call and see what the best rates they can offer you are, and they will be happy to keep you and retain you. So even if you don't like switching, make sure you do that every year. But if you are considering switching, what I find the best way to get the best price available is to use a price comparison website. So the CRU, we have an accreditation framework where we have set certain standards, and we've accredited 3 websites. So that's them there: Bonkers, Switcher, and Power to Switch. And what that means is you have a website that is independent, will give you the results, the cheapest ones first, and that you can trust the results of these, that they've been verified. Now I do this every year. I just go onto one of those websites, I put in a bit of information that'll tell me what the best rates are for me. And they'll give you the time use tariff, or the flat rate tariffs, the day night, whatever you want. It's really simple. It only takes a couple of minutes. And once you've decided, then you're able to contact the supplier you want and switch. They'll do the switch for you. So there's not much work for you. You contact them, they tell them what to switch. They'll deal with that. You'll be switched over. You won't have to deal with your old supplier at all. So it is really worthwhile. And I'd advise everyone to kind of set something there in their diary every year to do that. Finally, I just think the last thing I wanted to mention was around microgen. So just to cover that, last year we introduced a requirement for every supplier to pay their customers for any exports. It's called the Clean Export Guarantee. So now we've got about 70,000 customers who are eligible to get paid for that. And the rates in the market are about 14 to 25 cents for every unit exported at the moment. So it's just something to consider if you are thinking about getting solar panels or any other microgen, that there are payments out there now. Okay, so we're happy to take any further questions you have once we get into this now. But I would advise people, if you're considering switching, or if you have any concerns about with your supplier network operator, there is a lot of information on our website about how to engage with suppliers and your rights. And we do have a customer care team that's always there to answer queries and assist customers. So the details are there. I think the slides will be circulated afterwards, but it's all there on our website. So that's it for me.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Fergus, and indeed thanks to all of our speakers this morning. obviously those papers have generated a lot of information to take in, and I've no doubt will trigger questions from you, hopefully. So I will open the floor now for questions or any comment that you may wish from those 4 papers. Lady over here. If you just put on your mic, will come on red. If you knock off the one there. Now.
Okay. I have a question for Carmel. It's not really about energy, but I have a home in a gated community in the centre of a town, and there's an ESB box. I think it's a transformer box that supplies the energy into the houses. It's at the gate. So the problem I have is a lot of the public use it as a seat and blocks access to my gate. I can't get in or out. And, you know, there's a sign on it saying danger, steer clear, keep away, but they sit on it. So can the ESB move that for me?
Okay.
I would say that's probably pretty difficult without actually knowing the area, because if you're moving a transformer, you have to find another site for the transformer, and it's expensive because it's cabling and the whole lot. Like transformers, like when we're putting them into estates, the whoever's developing the estate will agree the site for the transformer, and it's all part of that work that's done. Now, sometimes we can make a change. Like you may have seen some transformers, the boxes maybe have a roof that's triangular, and that would be done if there are particular kind of issues with kids doing it. So I would say if you contact the local office, I don't know whereabouts you're based, but or if you want to give me your details, like I can find out. Like again, it's a slow enough process to get that done, but I know that in some cases we definitely have an ability to put a kind of a triangle on top of it so that people can't sit on them. I've definitely seen them around the place. That's probably the easiest option.
Thanks, Carmel. I'll take questions in batches of 2 now. Gentleman over here.
I just wanted to ask Carmel about smart meters, and we had a smart meter installed yesterday in our house, and talking to the installer, he told me that this is a different batch of smart meters they're putting in, and it will facilitate, number one, continuing the flat rate, the night rate, day rate, night rate, and will also facilitate micro generation if you put in solar panels. We have a holiday home where we got a smart meter put in, I think last year, maybe 18 months ago, and we're about to get solar panels on that house. Can you tell me if that smart meter will continue with night rate, day rate, and also will facilitate micro generation? Thanks.
I'll let you answer it, Carmel. Yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, all of our smart meters facilitate export. So once you got a smart meter, it facilitates export. What we had was the original meters, the first batch of meters that we did were the 24-hour register ones. So that's the bulk of them. From the 25th of September, the new meter now means a like-for-like exchange for a day-night meter. So it means you don't have to change your tariff. But whether you have the original, which was the 24-hour register, or you have the day-night, if you wish to go onto a smart tariff, which could be day, night, peak, or any of the ones that like the free Saturdays or whatever, both meters do that. But to facilitate a like-for-like exchange of the day, night meters, we got a new version of the meter that allows that like-for-like exchange. But all smart meters have registers for the export. So if you have solar panels and you have excess going to the grid, whether it's the original or the day-night one, export is on them all.
Thanks, Carmel. Lady over here, and then a gentleman at the back. If
No, it's automatically day and night, so it's a like for like. So what happens is when a smart meter goes in, there's a 30-day proving period. So just to make sure the comms are operating. So if the comms, if the meter say is in the basement of an apartment block, we might have poor comms and it might not do it. So it takes 30 days just to know that the meter is communicating. If the meter is communicating, the reads are taken automatically. So the day and the night registers will be pulled off of that. If it wasn't, then a meter reader would still come and call. But what that really means is that if you want to avail, say, if you wanted to change to a standard smart tariff, one of the options are smart services, then you have to contact either you contact your supplier. But the whole point of the smart metering program is they're like for like exchanges. So if a customer doesn't want to do anything, nothing changes, absolutely nothing changes. So, and like I say, the day-night meters, they're only starting to go in since the 25th of September.
Thanks, Carmel. Gentleman at the back. Gentleman there at the back. Do you have a question? No. Yeah. No. Okay. Lady at the front.
Thank you. I think this might be a question for Josephine. If you were looking at a major renovation of your house, so it's an opportunity to do all the things on the walls and the roof and the floors, and really maybe try and go for an A. I'm just wondering about the starting point. I know you said talk to other people who've done it, but if you don't know other people who've done it, I suppose you're kind of going to have to talk to contractors. And I'm just wondering, where do you find these contractors, or how do you know they're going to do the good job, or all of this? So I'm just wondering, I know you talked about getting the assessment done or a bear rating, but if you know already the bear rating is going to be could be down in the D's or lower than that. I'm just wondering what's your starting point in terms of scoping out what you need to do and make sure, if you have this opportunity, you make the most of it and you don't end up regretting what you do, or maybe it's not the best.
Okay, thank you. Joseph.
So yeah, if it's a major renovation, I would always say get a home energy assessment done. And there is a register of home energy assessors. You can go through the one-stop shop. You don't have to go ahead and get the works done with them. Just contact a one-stop shop. Say you want a home energy assessment. They will organize that, send somebody out. They will do a whole review of your house and talk to you about what you want. And then they will give you a report telling you what should be done, in what order, give you quotes. And if you decide to go ahead with them, you can organize with them to get contractors. If you don't, you can take that home energy assessment and go to a different one-stop shop or a different contractor and ask them for quotes. From a contractor perspective, looking at it through an energy lens, we have lists of contractors on our website registered with us that while we wouldn't say we certify them, they are registered, and we do ensure that they do comply with standards and codes and do quality work because we inspect them. And you can look those up by measure type, you can look those up by area, all of that. So all of those on that website would work with us over years. Yeah. Just if you go into SEAI and just look for the homes area and look for registered contractors, you'll see them all there. And we have a helpline who are always happy for people to ring and talk you through.
And Andre?
If I could just comment, maybe the fact that this is actually open house architecture weekend as well, and just in the context if you are doing a significant job on your house, you do need to be careful that you don't do damage to your house while you're also trying to upgrade it. So depending on the age of your house, if you had, for example, a protected structure, or sometimes people would do dry lining on the inside, and actually you can do damage if you haven't, I think it was mentioned earlier, do the ventilation. So I suppose it's just to be very aware that sometimes you might need to get a building sort of expert involved, like an architect or something, as well as the straight, sometimes the energy advisor will give you fact and data, but you actually maybe need to look at the building fabric as well to be sure that you're doing the proper job.
Thanks, Andrea, for that. Lady over here.
Oh, question for Josephine. I'm Corrina O'Donovan, just a private homeowner, and I'm wondering, you talked about double glazed windows, old ones, and what will I say, the walls were more important and the roof. So say double glazed windows over 20 years old, is there very little value in doing anything with them apart from replacing seals?
Depends how old they are. What I would say is if you have so it depends how old they are. What I would say is if you have a finite amount of money and your attic and your walls need work, then spend your money on that first. If, however, they're fine and you have the funding available, certainly then you should look at upgrading your windows. Generally, you know yourself, and actually the home energy kit is great to take out. I've done it, and use the laser gun, to look around your windows and see, does it turn cold? And then you know, well, hey, listen, I've got some problems with my windows, or maybe it's the seals around your windows. If you you see your curtains fluttering, things like that, then you know, hey, listen, maybe I do need to change them. But you generally know yourself from in your room. But often people just, when they think of energy efficiency, it's surprising the amount of people think I should change my windows, when actually the first thing they should do is look at other things. So that's all I'm saying there.
Thanks, Josephine. And can I throw in one in relation to questions which I get from time to time, is that if somebody installs an EV charging point at their dwelling, the cost of install or of that will go onto their bill from having a charging point at their home. Also, I get questions around the smart meters. Can you confirm that once the smart meter is installed, the householder no longer has to worry? They don't have to go opening the box and looking at the smart meter if they want. The advice is coming from the contractor. How do they go about readjusting or that? But just to confirm that they don't have to go near their smart meter themselves. And thirdly and finally, do you liaise with the representative organisations of older people? This can be very daunting and confusing for older people. And I'm just wondering, do you liaise with the organisations representing them? Okay.
I'll do the smart meter one first. Okay, the smart meter one. 97 to 98% of the smart meters communicate. Like the vast majority of them do. We do have problems that we're looking into, and we will over time, I'm sure, resolve some of the issues where if meters, like I said, are in the basement of apartment blocks and some of the more rural ones, they don't connect. But like I say, 97% every day we're talking to them. So for those customers, no, a meter reader won't need to call. And now that doesn't mean, like, if somebody, a lot of people don't trust technology and like to go out and check that what's in their bill is also still on their meter. So I know some people like to do that anyway, and of course you can, but you shouldn't have to, because it should be completely accurate for 97% of customers. And hopefully that will raise over years as communications get better. I think that was the only one for me. I'm not sure about the EV charging point one, whether that was for me or not. I don't think so.
Want Fergus, do you want to take it?
Yeah, maybe just an EV charging point. You mentioned it on bills. So I don't know. I mean, I know some of the electricity supply companies also offer electricity services now. They're diversifying, and they may offer the opportunity to install them, but they shouldn't be on your electricity bills. There shouldn't be any additional costs.
Okay. And the older persons?
Sure. And just to say that there are grants towards installing EV charging points in your home as well. On the older persons, absolutely, SEAI are very happy to talk to all entities. We do talk to Age Action, we talk to MABs, we go out and do talks at sports clubs like GAA clubs. There are over 700 sustainable energy communities registered with us across Ireland. They're everything from just local tidy towns groups or people who are interested in upgrading and improving their area. So huge amounts of data online, and again, just give us a call. We have people waiting to talk to you.
Okay. Gentleman over here.
This would be a question for Josephine to do with, you mentioned, as the lady said there, roofs and walls would be where you'd start to spend your money. So walls in 1960s houses with old, they don't have dual leaves where you can put stuff into them. They tend to be hollow block construction. Is there any advice coming as to what would be the most efficient way to insulate that type of construction, please?
Josephine.
For those ones, they are a bit more difficult, so therefore a bit more expensive. So it's either internal dry lining or external wall insulation. People call it external wrap. Obviously, the internal dry lining is disruptive and difficult if you're living in the house, and you have to make sure somebody professional does it, that you don't end up with things like cold bridging and mold and stuff like that in corners. The external wrap has been used across Europe for a long time, relatively new in Ireland, but it's around for about 20 years now. A bit more expensive, but a really good job, and it upgrades your house from the outside. There's so many finishes. It can blend in with red brick or with stipple or any of the colors you want. So it is a good job, but it's expensive.
Yeah, go ahead.
The ones that I've seen where they've done the wrap, they tend to do the full house. But if you have a north-facing back garden, let's say, it's a cold wall, and maybe even the adjoining wall, have you seen where a partial wrap can be done?
I'm sure people do that. It wouldn't be recommended by the technical professionals because, again, about that, you've insulated one wall and you've left the other walls cold. So you'll have where the cold meets the warm, and you'll have cold bridging, and problems can occur with mold. So grants are only given at the moment for the full house being done. But I'm quite sure that people do partial stuff.
Thanks, Josephine. Andrea.
Sorry, just to add to that comment about the external insulation, if you're going to wrap the house, you really should lift the windows and move the windows out into the layer of the insulation. So you mightn't be changing your windows, but if you think about it, you wrap the house on the outside and then the cold comes wandering in on that little point if you didn't insulate over the windows. So you either have to widen the insulation at the reveal and wrap it back in against the windows, but often you can't do that because the window frame might want to open out and there wouldn't be room. So the ideal way to do it is lift your windows and move them out to meet the insulation. So then you have a continuous layer of insulation, because the window acts as an insulator, although it's not as good a quality as a wall. So there's quite a lot. Everybody thinks we can just build a house and change it a bit, but there's quite a lot of physics involved. So you just do need to get advice.
Okay, Joseph.
Just to say that's why that is an expensive thing, because whoever comes to do your external wrap will move your windows, will move your sills. They do all of those things for you.
Okay, lady over here.
Wondering about planning permission for external wall insulation, and the reason I'm asking, do you need it? It's a house I'm thinking of where the side wall of the two-story house is actually the garden wall of the neighbour. So if you put external insulation on my side wall, it'll go into the neighbour's property.
You don't generally need planning permission. However, in certain cases, people might have objected when they see a neighbour doing something, and they might have to have grounds. So let's just say it was a listed home or something like that, people might say, or something really important in the community, then there might be a review of that. Generally not. What I would say for you is talk to your neighbours and tell them you're doing it and make sure that they're okay with it. Is really the best way to go.
Andrea.
I would suggest that could be trespass. Well, I would just think it depends, you'd want to find out the legal line of your property. If it's a normal shared wall, for example, like a garden wall, sometimes half of it is your property and half it's the neighbour. And if you want to sometimes do, say, an extension out the back of your house, you should always make sure that while you might share the wall, that when your foundation goes down, everything should be kept on your side. If you think of a traditional foundation, the foot of it sticks out on both sides, but you can be causing a trespass. So from what you're saying there, it sounds to me like the wall might belong to your house, but the space up to it is the garden of the neighbour, which suggests to me that if you do go out, you're going into their property, but you'd probably want to check that.
Okay, fine. Gentleman down front of me there.
Hi, if you're not already on a smart meter, how do you find out when you might get one installed?
You.
You can ring ESB Networks, and if you give your MPRN, we'll be able to tell you roughly when it is. Now, what I would say to you is that if you're 24-hour register, like what we call MCC01, we only have a couple of 100,000 of them left, and we will be getting to most of them, I think, between now and next year. And the same with the day-night meters. We've only just started on the day-night meters. We're exchanging probably between 9,000 and 10,000 meters a week, so we're getting through them pretty quickly. But if you want to register as an early adopter, what we try and do is get to those as soon as we're in a particular location. We try to get to those first. So just give us your MPRN, and somebody will be able to tell you. And if we can at all facilitate bringing it up a little bit forward, we will.
Thanks, Carmel. Lady in the front there.
I think this is a question for Govnet and the just the home energy saving kit you described in all the bits. I'm just wondering how you go about getting that.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Yes, the kit is available to borrow free of charge from library networks across the country. You borrow it for usually a week or two, more often 2 weeks, just as you would a book. And it comes with all of the manual and step-by-step instructions that you'd need to get the most out of it. We've also got lots of resources on our own website, codema.ie. If you want to get straight to it, if you go to codema.ie/energy saving kit, it has all of our manuals, our guide to saving energy at home, and a link to videos as well that will show you how to use each of the tools.
Okay. Okay, time, we're coming up on our time. I'll offer a final round if anybody has any other questions to ask. If not, I will then draw the seminar to a close. I think it was quite informative. I hope you took something out of the morning's papers, and there is a lot in there to take in, and I'm sure the speakers, their contact details of their companies and all will speak to you if needs be for a while afterwards. I want to thank Carmel, Govnet, Josephine and Fergus for your papers, very interesting and informative. And to thank you for coming out on a Saturday morning so early and engaging with the process. I want to thank Andrea and Phelim for organising the event as part of Open House. Andrea is around if you want to further information on the other events happening today in the area. But to thank you all and safe home.